Fox News seemed to have an epiphany. Live on air while denouncing Bernie Sanders as per usual. Let's play the first clip. This is technically Fox Business, but they reacted to Bernie Sanders calling for Democrats to actually run on economics and propose actually progressive economic policy rather than just focusing on abortion, which polls show, a new New York Times poll. Actually, let's show that, Colin. This is the New York Times article that came out today with new polls. Yeah, so Republicans gain edge as voters worry about the economy, poll shows. Both Democrats and Republicans have largely here we go. Let me read the top. Republicans enter the final weeks of the contest for control of Congress with a narrow but distinct advantage as the economy and inflation have surged as the dominant concerns, giving the parties momentum to take back power from the Democrats in next month's midterm elections. The poll shows that 49% of likely voters said they plan to vote for a Republican to represent them in Congress on November 8th, compared with 45% who plan to vote for a Democrat. With inflation unrelenting and the stock market steadily on the decline, the share of likely voters who said economic concerns were the most important issue facing America has leaped since July to 44% from 36%, far higher than any other issues. So Democrats, when things were so raw after the Supreme Court had overturned Roe v. Wade and we saw protests around the country, thought they could ride that all the way to the midterms. And obviously, I don't want to minimize it. I think it is one of the top issues, the overturning of Roe v. Wade. However, I don't think Democrats have actually given you any specifics on, if you put us back in control of the Senate, if you let us keep the House, here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to guarantee you that we codify Roe v. Wade nationally. I haven't seen any specifics from them how they're going to do that, because just getting 2 more senators is not an automatic for that. But what's amazing about this, why do you think Republicans, who literally, the Washington Post just reported, Republicans' plan, if they retake the House, is to immediately expand the Trump tax cuts and make it permanent. The Trump tax cuts in 2017 that gave 84% of the tax cuts to wealthy people. That's their plan to tame inflation. The same old shit since the 1980s, rinse and repeat and recycle, tax cuts for the rich. Well, as I said in an earlier video, what if Biden had threatened to pull federal subsidies to the oil companies? We give you $15 billion a year the federal government gives to the fossil fuckers. If you don't lower gas prices by $1 by the end of the week, you should have said this months ago, by the way, we're pulling those subsidies. That would be a pretty popular thing. That would be a pretty popular thing among independent voters that right now are breaking to Republicans. If the president showed some leadership and fought the oil companies, he didn't do that. Why? Because the Wall Street owns the Democratic Party and owns Biden. We live in the United Corporations of America, and Wall Street is heavily invested in fossil fuels. So they don't want subsidies to the fossil industry taken away. That's why. Biden could have done a lot of things like that. Biden could have taken action against the food companies who are grotesquely price gouging. He has not. So let's play the Fox News clip where it seems they have an epiphany on how politics works.
For the midterms, Senator Bernie Sanders telling Democrats they have to try and win over working-class Republicans. Roll tape.
Look, I think there are some extreme right-wing voters. No, and I don't think you're going to ever get them. But I also think there are millions of people in this country, working-class people, who look at Washington and they say, you know what, I'm falling further and further behind. Who is listening to me? And I think what we need is a Democratic Party that has the guts to stand up. And I think if we do that, some of those people, I'm not saying all, will say, you know what, I'm going to stand with the Democratic Party.
Okay, Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw with us right now. Congressman, didn't you just put out a new campaign ad stressing the need for a new generation in politics? Were you taking aim at the 82-year-old socialist, Bernie Sanders?
No, but of course it could apply rather well. You know, I was taking aim at South Texas. It's turning red. I mean, working class Americans in South Texas they want security, they want prosperity, okay? And you're not going to get that with an open border that's that's flooding across their counties and also taking up their resources. This is something the Democrats just can't seem to understand. So their main philosophy is, look, we're going to buy your vote. What do you need? We will get it for you. Somebody else has victimized you, and we're going to pay you off. That's what Democrats say. They'll pay off your student loans. They'll give you free money, free checks. They've almost doubled food stamp spending just in the last couple of years as well. Medicaid rolls are through the roof as well. So they just want to pay you off. They think that's taking care of you. But that's not the American way. The American way is the government is there to create a structure in which you can thrive and live free. It really is that simple, and I think people are realizing that's what Republicans stand for. So if you're going to reduce inflation, you got to hit the supply side of things. You got to make it easier to build things. You got to make it easier to produce things, not harder. Don't just flood the market with more and more money. That in itself is inflationary. So these guys are just totally out of touch. They don't understand basic economics, and they don't understand what the American spirit really is, which is we want to be free to work hard and prosper for ourselves and for our families.
Let's play the follow-up to that.
Issue. But at a time when working families are struggling and the people on top are doing phenomenally well, I don't think you go after working people.
Okay, so the sentiment of that might be right. Inflation is a real issue, right? And higher rates needed to bring it down only pinch Americans more. I think most people get that. But he is Bernie Sanders, and he went after, at a later point in that interview, big oil, big pharma, even food stores, grocery stores, razor-thin profit margins for reaping profits while everyday Americans struggle. And he didn't acknowledge government spending as a root cause of inflation.
It is to the eternal shame of the United States Senate that a socialist sits and chairs the Budget Committee. I've said that before, and it makes me very popular.
Yes. Yes. If you can buy off the voters. Shocking. You can buy off the voters by actually providing for their material needs. That doesn't mean voters don't have to work themselves. That doesn't mean, voters can just get their lawn chair and, drink margaritas by day, watch a little Maury, play a little cornhole, that they don't have to work. But if you actually give economic relief to working people rather than corporations, big pharma, fossil fuckers, Wall Street, Silicon Valley, if you, raise the minimum wage to $25 an hour, $15 an hour is the conservative position at this point. And it wouldn't even take effect right away. If $15 an hour passed today, it wouldn't take effect fully for 5 years. It would stagger every year a little more. If you, cut the military budget, I'd say in half. If you, instead of this complicated unemployment system that we have, actually have some type of basic income in this country, a UBI, not Andrew Yang's version of a UBI, but what many other countries have. If you actually had, basic common sense policies like paid sick leave, actual robust maternity leave. Germany, other countries, you have a year off paid. Yes, you could buy off the voters. And I'd rather politicians try to buy off the voters than the politicians be bought off by the United Corporations of America. Wouldn't that be nice? Jesus. And boy, if Biden would have canceled all of student loan debt, not this mealy-mouthed $10,000, $20,000 if you were on Pell Grants, which Republicans are already suing to try and stop. I don't even think it would be close in the midterms. You would have a lot, record numbers of young people voting. Because midterm elections, it always drops off among young people voting. Presidential election, they come out in higher numbers. Midterms, it drops off. You would have record numbers of young people coming out if he canceled all the student loan debt. By the way, not just young people, plenty of middle-aged person. Plenty of middle-aged people. So it's just incredible. It's just incredible that Fox News, and it's not just Fox News, by the way. You've seen, honestly, some corporate Democrats talked this way. Amy Klobuchar talked this way on the campaign trail. Oh, you just want to give free stuff to people. Everybody wants free stuff. No, people want the same things that corporations in this country get as a right of corporate citizenship. People want the same things that the donors get. That's what socialism means in this country, because we do have socialism in this country for rich people. I wish Bernie would have used that way more during the campaign, corporate socialism. And he should have called Biden a socialist too. And all of the Democratic establishment is socialist, because they're socialists too. They love giving tax incentives, tax abatements to corporations that line their pockets and then lay off workers. So just magical. And by the way, this is from Fox News. A poll came out, a Fox News poll, nonetheless. A Fox News poll found that a majority of Americans want the government to lend me a hand. This is a Fox News poll. A majority of Americans want the government to lend me a hand, up nearly 10 points in a year and up 19 points among Republicans. Look at this. 52% lend me a hand, 43% leave me alone. Yeah. Well, when you live in an economic gilded age, when you live in an economic Hunger Games, yeah, people want you to lend them a hand. It's not complicated. People are treading water. I've seen it. All this bullshit from Biden and the Democrats. Oh, historic economic recovery. When Colin and I went on our road trip, our reporting road trip about 2 months ago, I mean, you could find out very quickly that we're living in a gilded age. People are really hurting, and they were hurting, by the way, before inflation. There's been a 30-year inflation in this country. It's called the bank robbery of the United Corporations of America. It's called the chart that shows all the wealth going up to the top 1%, and at the bottom, your wages stagnated. And productivity, too. Thank you for that handy chart, Colin. Look at that just from January of 2021 to May. Look at prices going up, wages slightly going up, real wages going down. It's insane. And by the way, when whoever that was that said, oh, he's going after grocery stores, thin profit margins. Colin, let's show, this is from fizz.org. Food giants reap enormous profits during time of crisis. This Fox News pundit. Oh, Bernie's going after the grocery stores who are just barely breaking even. Oh, yeah? A recent report by Oxfam International has found that 62 new food billionaires were created during the pandemic. The report, realized ahead of this year's World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, highlights the record profits made by industry titans. Food and agribusiness billionaires reportedly raised their collective wealth by 42% in the past 2 years. 42%! All while global food prices soared by 33.6% in 2021 and are expected to rise by another 23% in 2022. Oh, those grocery stores are just barely making it. Let's look at Kroger. Kroger specifically. Kroger boasts $566 million net income after marking up consumer prices. New earnings data released by Kroger revealed that the company had $566 million in net income in its fourth quarter after hiking prices on consumers. Kroger's chairman and CEO said the company enjoyed record performance in 2021 and 2020. Meanwhile, the grocery chain spent a staggering $2.2 billion on shareholder handouts last year after it previously admitted it was passing along higher costs to the consumer. Yeah, quite the passing along. Kroger is among several food industry companies using the pandemic as cover to increase their wealth and line their shareholders' pockets. Oh, but Fox News loves that. Fox News absolutely loves that. And if you remember, we covered it a couple months ago. I think it was one out of 10 or 2 out of 10 of Kroger workers were homeless in California. But somehow you have Republicans believing and independents believing Republicans will do better on the economy. Why do they think that? Is it because Republicans have shown them anything? on the economy other than tax cuts for the wealthy, deregulation? No, it's because when you are in your current situation and you're struggling, if you're having to make tough choices between food or medicine for your kids, the electricity bill versus this bill, you're having to pick up extra hours at another job because the main job isn't paying enough to cover everything. Whatever the case may be, you're looking at who's in power now. And you're looking at, yeah, they gave me a $1,400 check a year and a half ago, and that was out the door right away. The bipartisan infrastructure deal, that doesn't affect my life. The Inflation Reduction Act, I mean, maybe a little bit,